Hello, 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 and hello again, viewers. You are welcome. We're glad that you're always here supporting, watching the channel, sharing, and commenting, and always subscribing. Send this video to your loved ones who you know would need the information. We're so glad. I am so glad that you could make it. And hey, happy new year. If you're hearing me this 2022, it shall be a year of great things and greater heights for every one of us. Now, we have a lovely guest in our midst, very special. She's loaded with so much information for us, and I am going to be introducing her to the screen. Her name is Mrs. Nike Olunloyo. You are welcome. You are welcome. Now, today's topic is about chemical engineering. So, ladies, girls, women who think engineering, is that for me? I think it's for men. No, you could be wrong. Here is a lady who is a guru in her field, and she is here to share her experience with us and to also encourage the youths who are looking into joining chemical engineering as a career or taking up chemical engineering as a career. So we'll say you're going to learn a lot from her. So please share the video, like the video, and make sure you subscribe. Now, Mrs. Olunloyo, nice to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself and your career journey so far?
Okay. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Nike Olunloyo. I am a chemical engineer. I'm a chartered chemical engineer. And just to go through my career journey, I originally, when I was at secondary school, my dream was maybe to study medicine or pharmacy. But eventually, before I got into university, that changed. I mean, based on the subjects that I really did like, when I got career advice, I kind of felt that chemical engineering was a better option for me. So I studied chemical engineering. And after I did my chemical engineering, I got a job straight away in the pharmaceutical industry, in the pharmaceutical company, and as a process safety engineer. And after that, I then moved into specializing more in health and safety over the years. So chemical engineering, is quite a big thing. So so far, I've moved from chemical engineering and then specialize in environment, health, and safety to date. So that is my sort of journey so far.
Oh, wow, wow. That's really a journey. Thank you very much for sharing this with us. So you are qualified to actually speak to us about chemical engineering because you are in the field already. And I would like to ask, what exactly is chemical engineering about and how is it relevant in our world today?
So I would say chemical engineering is really about, it's about any kind of process really. So you would hear in a lot of places that chemical engineers are being referred to as process engineers. So this is basically chemical engineering is about changing raw materials into useful products, to use in our everyday life and in the most cost-effective way. So chemical engineers could be found in various industries, whether it be petrol, food, fiber, pharmaceutical, oil and gas. So many different places that you would find chemical engineers, as long as there's a process of changing raw materials into a finished product.
So does that mean you work in the lab as a chemical engineer and you also work on the field with for example, if you're, like you said, you could you could deal with petroleum or raw materials, like you said, yeah. So does it mean you could either work in a lab or you could actually work on the field? Is that what that means?
Absolutely. So it means that you can start off in the lab, which was where I originally started off my career. So I worked as a process safety engineer, where I looked into mixing up chemicals in the lab at very, very small scale. And then those chemicals, is just to check that when you put a few chemicals together, they don't react in a way that can cause an explosion when you decide to scale up. So it's just testing in a small, small scale in an environment that is controlled. So that when you then scale up, you then go into like a bigger scale, which is like a, pilot plant, and then into like a production, a manufacturing plant, where you get more people on there. And chemical engineers also can also work outside. So if it's as an oil and gas, then you could see them onshore, offshore, working with their hats on. And it's all about doing the same thing, but there will be different processes for making different things. So, for example, in the food industry and the pharmaceutical, their processes are quite similar. But when you go to like an oil and gas or petroleum company, it's a different thing because they're distilling chemicals, and they do that at a different place. But it's still process engineering to make a finished product. So there's a variety of things that you could do with chemical engineering. You could also even be a design engineer. So you'll be designing the plants or the process to make a finished product all the way from like the start. So where you mix them in the lab, and then you mix them, you go on a bigger scale in the pilot plant and into production. So you're designing the process, and you didn't know where to have a valve, where to, get the vent of some chemicals out in different places. So it's kind of, you go through the process. So you might just be, just office based as well. Wow. So there's a variety of different things you could do with chemical engineering.
All right. So that takes me actually to the next question. What are the branches of chemical engineering?
So the branches of chemical engineering, one major part of chemical engineering is health and safety. So environment, health and safety is a key area. So how whatever you're making affects the environment, and and also the health and safety of people that you're actually making those products for, as well as even yourself working there. So that's one major part of it. There's also design engineering, like I said. So we have process designers who are chemical engineers, because they have the knowledge of how to make sure that they put the right processes in place. So when you have like a reaction, for example, you need to have a reactor and then another place to maybe vent the air or anything that is explosive out into in a safe manner. So you kind of could do that as one way where you go. Also, you could also be a production engineer. It should just be in a manufacturing plant where you have different processes happening, and then you're working there. You might decide to be an oil and gas person as well, where you're offshore or onshore, and that's where you are at the kind of job that you're doing. So there's so many branches to chemical engineering. If I couldn't name all of them, because I guess it would need a lot more. But you can always go onto the IChemE, so that's the Institute of Chemical Engineers website, and you'll find a lot more information as to what you could do with chemical engineering and the branches of chemical engineering.
Wow. So actually, with what you have said, it's not gender biased. Well, would I say it's gender biased, or it's not gender restricted? I think that's the word. It's not, because
it's definitely not gender restricted. I think even when I started off my career, I could say that, yes, the number of women in the profession were not many. So, you could see a few men and women, but it depends. And if you are somebody that wants to climb onto different plans and you have your hat on, then you can go ahead and do that if you enjoy something like that. If you don't like that, there are other options that you could pursue. So which could mean that you're designing or you're into something else that you would prefer rather than. So it's definitely not gender bias. You could do as much as you want with chemical engineering.
Cool. Wonderful. And that from the word chemical engineering, it seems it's more of chemistry. But before we go there, let me ask, how do I know if chemical engineering is for me? That's for viewers who are listening, for people, you two are still trying to decide, I'm not sure what career I need to go into. How would you encourage them? How would you what would you say to them if they're not sure if chemical engineering is something they can take up or not?
Yeah, I would say that if you're in maybe like doing your GCSE or GCE or A levels at the moment, or wanting to go into university, and you have not decided as to what course or what you would like to do. I think just go for the subjects that you know that would either help you to go directly into chemical engineering. And if you decide that you wanted to switch over elsewhere, you're still able to do so. But so I guess it's what you like, the subjects that you like, that would kind of determine. And things like, maths, for example, would be one subject. If you really do like maths, that would be a good thing, because a lot of engineers need to have the mathematical skills to be able to do things. If you're good at that, I would say you should think that that would be a good career for you to go into. If you're also good in something like physics, it's also something that you could go into, because it also involves a lot of calculations and stuff like that. So you would be able to go through on the course, and will be able to do it well. I think other courses, chemistry, funny enough, it's called chemical engineering, but you don't necessarily need to be very good at chemistry to be able to do the chemical engineering. Some knowledge of chemistry would be good for you, but you don't even, I think in some of the universities, you don't even need to have chemistry as a subject to get into chemical engineering. So I know the key subjects so far will be maths, physics, and sometimes I know people have done like economics or even some other subjects to be able to get into there. So those will be my kind of advice if you're thinking about chemical engineering and not sure yet.
Wow, wow. So I actually spoke like a layman there, thinking chemical chemistry. Okay, I don't like chemistry. I'm out of here. So thank you for clarifying that. So you don't need to be an expert in chemistry to be a chemical engineer. That's wonderful. It sounds to me like chemical engineering will have to people who want to go into it would have to be people who want to explore, who are ready to are not laid back, who are not lazy, who want to, you might just be given two chemicals, like you said, putting two chemicals together, and if it kind of explodes, then that's not the way to go, or whatever it is. So does it also involve like all these bombing, not bombing,
chemical
this
explosions, exothermic reactions? Absolutely. So that was one key area, that I started to work on. So, especially working in the pharmaceutical industry. So there are so many drugs or, that came into place, raw materials, that we didn't know how they were going to react with the standard chemicals that we knew about. So we knew about some of the chemicals, like say methanol, for example. We knew how that would work. We know the properties of it. But some of the novel raw materials for making drugs, you don't know how they're going to react. So we kind of put them in a controlled, in a place where, like what would I call it? We call that a differential scanning calorimetry. So it's a place where you can check it in a controlled place. So you have what would I call that? Something that you could just, perform the the experiment into, so that even if it explodes at that small quantity, it's kind of in that controlled environment. It doesn't go beyond that for you to go into the building. So that's the kind of small little test that you do. And then you try out experimental reactions and using different properties like temperature. If you increase the temperature, what would happen? If you increase the pressure, what would happen? If you kind of have more of the materials and more of the liquid, what will happen? So you just change this and have experimental experiments to just check that what will happen in that little phase. Before then, you then go on a bigger scale and you increase it in a little and small scales to kind of ensure that when you then scale up, you don't have a lot of explosions. I know we've heard of different explosions that have happened, even whether it be in a building or something. There is some kind of reaction taking place, some chemical reaction taking place. That's what leads to a lot of the explosions. So yes, that's why I did say earlier that knowing some of the properties of some chemicals would be good. Chemistry, would be good, but that's not it's really more about how they interact with other things and the environment and the equipment that you're actually using for them to see the reaction properties to avoid explosions.
All right, great. Wonderful. You mentioned something about drugs, see what chemicals, da 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 da. Does that lead you to pharmacy? Because it's more like, I think chemical engineering is such a wide umbrella that you could even have pharmacy in it, biochemistry, all this other stuff. Wow. Okay. I know. There's a lot.
It does, but it's a bit different to. I mean, the pharmacists do their bits, but you are more concerned about the process of making sure that your materials don't react with each other in a way that can cause an explosion. Whereas the pharmacist will be mixing the chemicals, knowing that the properties of this.
That's okay. They're mixing safe chemicals, but you're kind of like a step before the. Not ahead of them, but before them. Then they know, okay, I can do methanol, I can do this just because chemical engineers have certified that this are mixable. Okay, so what role, because this is very interesting now, what role, can you please explain? I know, you said it, but I just wanted you to also, emphasize it. What role do you think chemical engineers are playing now in this COVID situation, COVID pandemic? What role do you think?
I would say that it's just still ensuring safety of what they're doing, as well as still making things to happen. So we still need to eat, we still need the drugs, we still need the petroleum, but doing all of these in a safe manner. So we're also having like safety in place to make sure that when those things are being produced, they're done in a safe manner, that people don't get COVID. We don't have a breakthrough of a lot of infection. We also make sure that all what is being made are done in a way that they are not contaminated with people being infected. So a lot of the role of the chemical engineer still carries on even through the pandemic, but it's done in a safer manner. Which safety really, as a chemical engineer, should be one big thing in the first place.
Yeah, thank you. You've kind of answered part of the question I'm about to ask, which is what subjects to study in school and uni or college. So we know sciences will be the best thing for someone who is going into chemical engineering to start looking at. But how about university courses? Do they come in different names, or does it have to be chemical engineering as a course, or are there different sites? Okay, like you said, process engineering. Okay, so what other names could they look out for? Because in different universities, they might call it different things, and we don't want people who are listening now, viewers who are listening now, to think, oh, if I want chemical engineering, it has to be that name, chemical engineering.
I would say that. So it could be called chemical engineering or process engineering. That's exactly the same course. Okay. Other people opt to do like biochemical engineering as well. But that's more into the bio, so it's a little bit not, I would prefer to have something that is more wider. So I would say the normal chemical or process engineering will be wider. If you decide that you want to work in a petroleum company, you could do petrochemical engineering as well. There's that as well. So, but it's your options that, those are the courses that you should be looking out for if you want to study chemical engineering. Okay. And also, so there is the BEng, it's called Bachelor's in Engineering. There's sometimes called the honors degree, Bachelor's in Engineering, or BSc. So most of the engineering courses will have Bachelor's in Engineering, and the honors will be better. Also, as if you want to be a member of the Institute of Chemical Engineers, there are some requirements that they would want you to have. And I believe that now if you should be looking for the Masters in Engineering, which is an extra year for the course, for you to actually meet the educational criteria to be a chemical engineer. So, as I said before, look on the IChemE website, which is the Institute of Chemical Engineers website, and you'll be able to find a lot of information as to which courses are accredited by them and which courses are not. I think if you go for the ones that are accredited by them, it just means that when it comes to when you want to apply for chartership, you've already met one of the criteria for that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you for throwing more light on that. one of the final questions I have is, what steps can I take to be relevant internationally? Because I don't know if the way it works in chemical engineering field, but I know in IT, you have to do there's so many courses out there. There's so many certifications you have to get. But for a chemical engineer who is maybe in a different part of the world, what would you say they need to start thinking about if they want to go international or be internationally recognized?
Yeah, I would say that. So first of all, after the degree, gaining experience in the right sort of areas, which also could be found if you look at the Institute of Chemical Engineers. So many different countries have that. But I would say that if you look at the one for the UK, for example, it's an international, it allows people from different countries to be registered once you have the right qualifications and the experience, and it lists that there for you to be registered. And if you once you're registered with them, you could just pursue like the right experience in terms of the number of years, what the experience should be in, what areas they're looking for you to have had experience in. That should guide you to walking towards chartership. Once you walk towards your chartership, you would have to have interviews, and you would need to submit your continuing professional development, your CPD, as well as your experience. So that would lead into you gaining the chartership after a peer review interview, which members of the institute will hold for you. Once you get that, that is an international qualification that you could work elsewhere or in any country. And I believe other countries as well also have similar things for you to be able to use for their country in terms of certification for you to be recognized as well.
So thank you very much. Thank you. We've been educated, we've been informed about chemical engineering, and we're so glad to have you here. But is there a quote, a favorite quote that guides your philosophy of life, that makes you want to get up every morning to say, yes, this chemical engineering, this is my field, and I'm going to be the best in what I do? Just for the young ones who are listening, who are still not sure even if to go to school or not, they're just, oh, why do we have to go to school? But what gingers you up every morning to want to do what you're doing?
I would say, I don't have a quote per se, but I would say that for me, it's like, as long as I'm affecting the world, affecting other people, and making sure that, it's whether I'm helping people to feel better by, helping the pharmaceutical industry, or whether I'm helping people in a way that they can get to their full potential. And I would say that that gives me the kind of joy for me to wake up every morning and do what I want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you very much. So it's all about adding value to lives. Thank you very much. So even as a chemical engineer, as you're mixing those chemicals, as you're on the field with the hat on, raw materials and everything, it's about lives. It's about making sure that you add value to people. Thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. Are there any last words you want to tell the viewers? Is there anything out of the box you just thought about and you think, oh, you want to share with people before we call it a wrap?
Not really. Just, whatever you feel that you can do. Don't always limit yourself. Always aim for something high, I would say. So chemical engineering is a great area to go into, and the opportunities are phenomenal, and you won't really regret it if you do that. So that would be my kind of nugget for you. Last nugget, really.
Yeah, wow, thank you. So that's a quote right there. Never limit yourself. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best in your career journey.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So viewers, you've heard it all from Mrs. Olunloyo. She's just told us about chemical engineering and how it is adding value to life. So if you're a climate change person who is more into climate change, this is a field for you to think, oh, how do I make things better so that we don't just keep exploding things here and there? Or how do I make sure that all these raw materials we've been blessed with, adds value to lives? Or so many things she's talked about. So if whatever it is, if you're good at exploring, if you want to explore, this is a field for you. So I hope that all as that has been said today would really help you to make a decision to join the engineers who are chemical engineers. We will call it a wrap for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you all the best in your career choice. Bye-bye.